Alright, so a couple of the questions that had shown up in your discussion board dealt with finding the vertex and determining if an equation or a function is a maximum, minimum, or neither. And so I wanted to go ahead and just do a couple of those examples. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and find the vertex. Well, in order to find the vertex, that means that we first have to remember the vertex formula. Vertex formula is negative b over 2a, function at negative b over 2a. And this helps if you are given a function that is in standard form. Okay, so that's what that's going to help, is if you're given a function in standard form. So let's say we have r of x was x minus 3 squared and plus 5. Well, this is what we like to call transformation form. So here we have transformation form, which is a times x minus h squared plus k. But what we need to know or remember about it is that when we're talking about this h term here, this is going to use your opposite sign, and it's going to give the x value. Furthermore, this k part here, we are going to use the same sign, and it is going to give the y value. Okay? So that is what the basic of the equation is. So now if we go back to our example, we have x minus 3 squared plus 5. So the x minus 3, again, is going to give us that h value, and we're going to use the opposite sign. So my h in this case is going to be a positive 3. If we look over here at the 5, that is going to give us the k value, and remember, we're going to use the same sign. So we have a positive 5. My vertex is in the form hk, which is going to give me 3, 5. And that is my vertex of this particular problem. Now, what happens if we're not given transformation form? Okay, so what happens if we're given standard form? Well, again, that is where your vertex formula comes into play. So remember, standard form is going to be ax squared plus bx plus c. So what happens if we are told that h of x is x squared plus 7x plus 6, and we want to find the vertex? Well, this means that we have to use negative b over 2a, the function evaluated at negative b over 2a, in order to find my vertex. So my h value is negative b over 2a. Based on this problem right here, remember, a is your coefficient attached to your square term, and b is the coefficient attached to the x term. So here, we're looking at negative 7 over 2 times 1, which is going to give me an h of negative 7 halves. Once you find your h value, you need to find your k value. So here, k is the function of negative 7 halves, because it's a function of negative b over 2a. So anywhere we have an x, we have to plug it in. So this is negative 7 halves squared plus 7 times negative 7 halves plus 6. So we have to work with our fraction. When we square it, remember, square the top and square the bottom, so this becomes 49 over 4. Over here, you're going to multiply straight across the top and straight across the bottom. So this here is going to become minus 49 over 2. And then here we still have the plus 6. So there's a couple things that you can do, which is, first and foremost, you can combine these two, but you need to have a common denominator. So here my lowest common denominator is going to be 4. So that means to my middle term, I have to multiply the top by 2 and the bottom by 2. But to my last term, I have to multiply the top by 4 and the bottom by 4. So this is going to give me the new problem, 49 over 4 minus 98 over 4 plus 24 over 4. So now you can actually do the math. So we've got the 49 minus 98 plus 24. And that whole thing is going to give you negative 25 over 4. The last thing you would look at is, do these values reduce? And in this case, they don't. So your vertex is again hk, which is going to be negative 7 halves, negative 25 over 4. Okay. So those are two different examples using the vertex formula, either one because you had transformation form or because you had a standard form in order to find the vertex of a problem. Now the other question that we had, or that I saw that was in the discussion boards, was about trying to determine if you had a minimum, a maximum, or neither. Okay, so to determine if your equation is a minimum, a max, or neither. Okay, there's a couple things that you have to look at. Okay, first you need to look at the type of equation that you have. Okay, so here most of what you want are x squared equations. The reason for that is because a maximum or a minimum is going to occur either when you have a parabola that has a valley, so this one is a minimum, or you had a hill or a mountain. This one would be a maximum. Okay, so notice any other type of line, and we're not really looking at maximum or minimums, we're basically doing it with our quadratics. Okay. Now the second thing that you need to look at is you need to look at then the sign of your ax squared term. Okay. So in this case, what does it mean? Well, a positive a is going to give you a minimum. Okay? The reason for that is because your parabola will open up. At the same time, this means a negative a term gives a maximum. The reason for that is because your parabola opens down. Okay. So let's look at an example. If I had f of x was negative x squared minus 6x minus 3. First thing I need to do is I need to determine max, min, or neither. Okay. So determining max, min, or neither again says we have to look for the quadratic. Well, this is. And then you need to look at the sign of the a term. So here, my a is negative. Therefore, this is going to open down, which means I have a max. Okay, and so that was the answer we're looking for, is a max. Now the second part of this question would usually say you need to find the value this occurs at. Well, that is a fancy sentence for saying find the vertex. And that's all you have to do. The vertex is going to be the single point where your maximum or minimum occurs. So if we go back to this one and we look at those two graphs, we've got a minimum point. Well, you've got a single most point that's going to occur at the minimum. So this right here is going to be your vertex. Well, that's the same at your maximum. You're going to have a single point, and this right here is going to be the vertex. So when you are asked to find the location at which that occurs, you are being asked to find the vertex of your problem. Now this problem was given to you in standard form, so you need to use the formula. The formula says negative b over 2a. So this is going to be negative of my negative 6 over 2 times a negative 1. So negative times negative is positive. Positive times negative is negative, so the overall result is going to be a negative, and then 6 over 2 is going to give you a 3. And then we need to find the function at negative b over 2a, which is the same as the function at negative 3. So here we have a negative of my negative 3 squared minus 6 times negative 3 minus 3. Negative 3 squared is 9. Apply the negative, makes this a negative 9. Negative 6 and negative 3 is a positive 18 minus 3. So here we've got 18 minus 9, which is 9, minus 3 gives you 6. So my vertex, or the point at which it occurs, so your value is going to be when x is negative 3 and y is 6, or the vertex point negative 3, 6, depending on how you're asked to enter it. Okay. So those were some of the biggest problems that were asked. Again, remember to keep filling out those discussion boards so that if you have problems, we can go ahead and deal with it here in the virtual classroom. So we will see you next time.